Back to Caddy Corner. I'm Austin.
I'm Caleb.
And this is Jason.
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? So,
I didn't really know the proper thing to say to start it off.
well, neither do we, because you're our first guests. So we don't have any ideas for this. But thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, and first guest. So,
Of course.
if you want to just take a second to give some of your background about what you do, what you've done in this media kind of journey that you've been on.
Yeah. So first, I'll just say, you are killing it. This is awesome. And I think it's huge that you're promoting yourselves as heavily as you are. That's always a good thing. And walking in here and seeing this setup, I was like, oh wow, they really got it going on, sort of thing. But no, yeah, of course. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit about, I guess, how I wanted to get into this kind of field. So funny enough, whenever I was younger, I for a long time, wanted to be a history teacher, go to school to be like a history teacher or English teacher, and then coach a sport or be like an athletic director as well. And then, those plans kind of changed. I got into high school and those plans changed. I was, at a young age, I was diagnosed with the mildest case possible, cerebral palsy. And so it caused a lot of, I don't want to say limitations, but it caused there wasn't as much success within the athletic field as what I would have liked for there to have been. And so, I had a passion for, sports growing up, and I love to talk. And so once I got to about the age of about 15, 16 years old, I realized, hey, I would love to get into broadcasting stuff and do podcasts like what y'all are doing or that sort of thing. And so I kind of hit that head on and went from there. And there had been some talk throughout my end of my junior year of high school, beginning of senior year, to help start the academy that's at South now. And I was blessed with the opportunity to get to help start that. And so, and you all know there's, web design, gaming, and then the broadcasting. And so I got the chance to start that, and was, honored at graduation as the first student in, the program's history to complete all the classes for it. And it's a very humbling experience. And then I'm gonna, I guess, expose myself here. I applied to a bunch of different colleges because I knew that's what I wanted to do was the broadcasting stuff. And App was the only college I didn't get into. No. So I applied to Campbell, Coastal Carolina, Lenore Ryan, UNC Charlotte, Pfeiffer, just a bunch of places to keep my options open, and App was the one I didn't get into. So I went to RCCC for a year, did some prerequisites, ended up going to App the year after, and at App I got to, when you get into college, you really get to kind of go in and experience the whole broadcasting side of things and how it's going to be in the field. And so, I got to be on the radio station every day, which was awesome. I was on the TV station that we have, the campus TV station, and was one of the anchors for our news show that we had every week. And so it was awesome. I got to, this past year, I was actually the sports director for our radio station. So I got to, host a sports talk show 2 days a week, and then manage about 15 guys that we had on our team, and then went to call some games. So we called football, basketball, baseball, softball, that sort of thing. And then I did that that was 3 years, and then I just kind of graduated last week, and now I've moved back home, and waiting to hear back from a lot of different companies, a lot of different TV stations, radio stations I've applied to, and so I'm just kind of working while I wait for that moment. But yeah, that's I guess kind of the quick summary of my journey. So
it's extensive.
Yeah, very. Well, there's a lot more I probably could have said, but I wanted to keep it short and sweet. Try to. So
fascinating story.
Yeah, there's tons of nuance because Caleb and I both we like kind of picked up like in like your footsteps, kind of like about like whenever like you left was like whenever we like put pedal to the metal and really like took it to that next level too. And so like without like your like work that you put in, like trailblazing that path, like we wouldn't have probably been able to be as successful as we were, or like change the like landscape of what the studio kind of was for us at least. So like you really were a pioneer in that field for at least at South. So
well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a question that I wanted to say, and I think that I didn't know about like your relationship with sports. I didn't know how much you just like really like loved it. I knew that you were into like sportscasting. That's what like you were really into, like the athletic side of the media. And you touched on like how like you were just always interested in sports. And so like where like whenever you realized that you could do like media in sports, was that like a life-changing kind of perspective for you, where you could still be involved in sports?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I knew, like I said, once I got into high school, that I wanted to stay in sports somehow. And the one thing that I will say, you know, whether it's sports or just this whole broadcasting media stuff in general, there is a ton of different things you can do. You know, it's more than just in front of the camera speaking like what we're doing here. There's, you know, behind the camera work, there's setting up. You have different people who have assignments for creating shows, creating content for shows. You have people running cameras. You have all different kinds of people. And so you have the chance to do, it's so much more versatile than what, you know, you all would see at South. And then also, you know, what I got a glimpse of in college. And so, you know, whenever I realized that, hey, you know, I love to talk and I love sports, you know, why not combine the two and go from there? And so it was awesome to say, you know, hey, this is what I want to do. And about halfway through my journey at App, I had my parents, they asked me, they said, you know, if you could go back and change it, would you change it? Any of what you're choosing to do or what, you know, where you're at, that sort of thing. I said, absolutely not. You know, I feel like everybody's put on this earth for a reason. And I feel like everybody's got a calling on this earth. And I feel like, you know, that was my calling. And so I went head first into it, and I wouldn't change it for the world even to this day. The one thing about the industry itself is, you know, unfortunately you have to start at the bottom a lot of times and work your way up. You know, you're not going to graduate from college and have the job that you've always wanted, sort of thing, as far as the industry is concerned. You know, you have to do some of the dirty work, whether that's setting up equipment, whether it's running errands for people at radio stations or TV stations or whatever. And you know, it's all about networking, who you know, meeting the right people, making impacts on those people, and going from there. So you, the more you're into it, the more you start to learn about it, and it's awesome because I learn something new every day within it, and it's really cool to see. So, and it's awesome that I'm not the only one around here who's interested in that kind of stuff. You know, seeing y'all two dive so far head first into all of this is really cool.
Yeah. So do you think that like timing had something to do with like your journey so far? Do you think like do you think that you're doing the right thing at the right time, or do you wish that you could have gotten into this earlier, or do you think that you were a little too early? And what do you think about like timing and stuff?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a right time for everything. I think going into this, and I still have it on my phone, the first ever newscast I did in high school for RNN, and I watch it sometimes and I was like, ugh, that was kind of cringy, you know, but no, yeah, and I think that the timing was right, and I was very, very glad that academy in high school kind of started, because it helped me with a little increase in my comfort level, I guess, than what it would have been if it wouldn't have started when it did. And it was awesome. You know, it opened a lot of potential opportunities within my career. You know, I got asked to do PA stuff for football games and some softball, some baseball while I was in high school, and even whenever I was, you know, still at RCCC. And so the timing, like I said, I believe everything happens when it happens for a reason, and I think that the timing couldn't have come at a better time, I guess you could say, because I was at first I was like, what am I going to do? What's my next step? Because when I was a freshman in high school, I was clueless. I was like, I don't know. There's no classes here. I wish there were some classes you could take that would lead you into that, and then you turn around and it's right there. And I have to credit a lot of how that went in high school to how I grew in college, because I got a glimpse of how that experience was. Yeah. And it just kind of grows stronger whenever you get into college and get into that stuff.
Caleb and I talk about that a ton, where like how you said, like high school, like the Communications Academy at South kind of gave you a perspective like on like your like pursuit in the like sports media field. Like the studio gave us a perspective on like this, and so if it wasn't for that, like there's no chance we would be like in this exact position today, like doing this show. And so like we talk about that a ton, and we like just did an episode last week that was about, well, not when you're listening to this, but it's all about high school. Whatever comes out next Friday is all about like how to do high school the right way. So something that I wanted to ask you was, like, as somebody like you really did pioneer like the whole Communications Academy and stuff like that. Caleb and I like have a similar perspective on that. And we know like the hard work and like dedication that it really requires to like really like change the perspective, and also like really like do something to like leave a legacy, like on especially like breaking into new media in a small town stuff. And so like, and I know that, and obviously like you did that first. So like what was that hard work like, and like what was that dedication like?
Oh man, it was fun. It was interesting. I don't know how it was when you all were there, because y'all both graduated, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I don't know how it was when you all were there, but throughout RNN, a lot of times we had it as a class. There was a specific name for it, and I can't remember what the name was for the class. But anyways, we would go in every day and we'd sit down, and it was almost like an editorial kind of meeting, and we would say, okay, what's going on within the high school, what's going on within the community, and that sort of thing. And so it's the preparation, the dedication, it's a lot sometimes, but the end factor, the reward factor is awesome. To put all that work together, that work that you put in to make a show and to make like podcasts like this, or TV shows or radio shows, and to see it all pay off in the end, see the fruits of your labor kind of pay off is awesome. And so with it being a small town, like what you said, a lot of times there's not much, I don't want to say huge news, but there's not a lot of like groundbreaking news that goes on a lot of times. And so you got to kind of, work with what you're given and try to make the best of it. And that was exactly what had happened. But like I said, it was awesome, getting to start that and kickstart that journey, and then get to experience how all this is. And I heard even, my first year after I graduated, all I would hear was great things about the whole academy itself. And so it's awesome getting to see, so many people still enjoy being a part of that and getting into it, because a lot of people will take the class just to take it and then that be it. Whereas, I'm assuming both of you took it, so you take it and then you all kind of fascinated by it and continue that legacy on, and so it's awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing that me and Austin talk about all the time is how whenever we were in studio, we had so many people who were creative thinking and like us, and so motivated in that kind of field, that it kind of made what we did a little bit easier, So I wanted to know if you have anybody like that was from high school, like people who were around you that were like always motivating you, like student wise, and then like even in college. Like I know you had people like that in college, but did you have people like that in high school?
So we had, I'm trying to think. We had a lot of times in high school, we would have people who would walk in and immediately say, okay, the first thing they'd say when they walk in the studio was, I got a story I did, this is what it is. It came to me like during the day, because we would have that class, I believe, halfway through the day, just about. I think. I can't remember exactly, but and then they'd have those ideas and they would run with them. Or like, I call her Double T, but Miss Tutterose, she would come in and she'd say, guys, I had a great idea for a story, and we'd go with it. And then even in college, you have it's awesome because whenever I was in the academy in high school, we would get assigned different positions. So you would have people who do anchor stuff. You'd have people who would run the teleprompter stuff. You would have people who would go get stories. In college, it's okay, whatever you enjoy doing, that's what we'll have you do. So you have a lot of people who would do just the technical stuff. They'll come in, they'll set everything up for you. They'll do the mic placement for you, all of that. And then you'll have some people who they just like going and finding stories and getting stories and putting them together. And then that makes your job a lot easier because you can tell there's a lot of excitement there, and different people enjoy doing different things within this industry. You'll have a lot of people who say, okay, I want nothing to do with in front of the camera. I want to find content, create content, and go from there. And then you'll have different people who say, well, I don't want anything to do with the content. I just want to run the sound, run the video, whatever. And so it makes your job easier. It makes everybody's job easier when you have all the levels of excitement on from behind the camera, running the camera, to in front of the camera. It makes it all easier. You have your favorites, obviously, which you enjoy doing more. Like, I like being in front of the camera, whereas a lot of people want nothing to do with it being in front of the camera, and vice versa. So it's awesome knowing that you have so many people who are on the same page as you are as far as the excitement level goes.
Definitely.
Yeah, super good point. I think that's really interesting because like that to me shows like the difference between like what you did in kind of like a more pro setting, whereas like what we're doing. Like everything that you just described, like Caleb and I both, well, I'll speak for myself, like I'm not somebody who is like super gung-ho about being in front of the camera, but like here I am. Like we're
Right.
At least I'm like much more behind the scenes, like much more technical. It's just what I prefer. I just like nerd out about that. But like here we are. And so like we've been kind of like put in the situation, and even in the studio, where like we have to become like well-rounded. Like we have to be able to do the behind the scenes, have to be able to run the board, have to be able to make sure the camera's working, have to be able to come like prepared, like research-wise.
Exactly.
And so I feel like that's like creatively really rounded us out really well, where we've just been like thrown into those situations where it's like, I mean, you can't just show up to the podcast and have no questions for you. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's made it a lot like easier for us, I think, to just be like really good all around.
The one thing that I've noticed too is, I've gotten the opportunity to do a lot of interviews like what you all will do throughout this podcast. One of the things that I've taught myself doing is making a list of questions a lot of times, and the conversation is carrying on so well that those questions go out the window completely.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have a regular conversation, and so that's cool in and of itself as well, because you get so caught up in the conversation you completely forget. You get done with the interview and you're like, oh crap, I had all these questions I didn't even ask.
Right.
So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to know, so obviously you spent your time at App State, and you spent like most of that doing media stuff, yeah? Like almost all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, do you have like a favorite standout moment from that whole process?
Oh man, let's see. There was a couple. The first time I was ever on air on a live radio station was really cool experience. The first time I was on air for TV was really cool experience, and then calling the App State and Coastal football game, whenever App State ended up beating Coastal, was probably one that ranks up pretty high. And even getting on a more personal level, just going into, because when you go into this radio stuff, you have to take a class, and the class is semester long. You pass the class, and the class will basically teach you how radio DJing works, how the radio industry works, how broadcasting industry works, and then once you go into that class knowing absolutely nobody, and then by the time you graduate, it's like you never walk through the radio station without running into somebody you know. And so you take that time to be able to establish those friendships, those relationships with people who end up meaning the world to you in the grand scheme of things. And so there's a lot of big moments that stood out, but there's a lot of smaller ones that have that you don't realize how much you actually take advantage of them until they're actually gone. And the one thing that they had the seniors some of the seniors within the broadcasting kind of major throughout the radio station up at App before we graduated, sit down and say, okay, what's the one thing you recommend to people who graduated or who will graduate next year? And the one thing that I said was, look, be sure to take advantage of every opportunity you're given. I said, whenever you get in my shoes and you're like, oh, senior year, I'm about done with school, I'm so ready to be done. And then you get all the way towards, second semester, you get into, March, April, when it really starts kicking in that, wow, I'm almost done. And then you end up taking for granted a lot of the opportunities that you were given. And, whether that's meeting the people or involving yourself within the major, because the major in and of itself wasn't very big. So you knew we had one specific building where the TV and radio stuff was. And so you ran into people all the time that you knew, professors, people within your major. And so, it was nothing for me to see one of my professors in their office and stop in and say hello and have those conversations with professors, just regular conversations. And so that's the one thing that I've kind of told them was make sure that you never take any of this for granted, because it could be an opportunity that passes you by, and then you could look down the road and say, man, I really wish I'd have done this differently. I really wish I would have done that differently. And so it's easy to get taken for granted, that's for sure. And it's easy to look past it and not cherish the opportunities you're given.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I think that's one thing that like me and Austin did very well, like our senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing that we talk about often, and like we talked about it last week on the podcast, is that senioritis is like a real thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And so
absolutely.
Like one thing that you can't do whenever you're in a position like this is like you can't get senioritis, and you can't be like like get to the point where you're like not motivated anymore. And like the opportunities that we got senior year at like high school were incredible, and like that would have never happened if like me and Austin got senioritis and like we dipped halfway through the school day. Like I mean, like it was like the last week of school, and like we came from the senior assembly, and like everybody else left, and like we went to the studio to like make a video.
We had a video we were working on that was like a banger video.
Oh.
And we had like, I mean, it was like a month worth, but it was like 2 weeks filming, 2 weeks editing. It was one of those.
Now, what did y'all edit? Do y'all still use Final Cut Pro?
No, so we use Premiere. So,
oh, sweet. Well, that's awesome.
Well, so this is the story. So this is like how our senior year went in the studio. So like, senior year is obviously our last year, but then that's whenever the transition from Macs to iPads happened.
Right. Okay.
And so the first semester we were kind of done for. Like it was what it was, because you just can't do anything.
Exactly.
You just can't, because it goes from like creating pro ready stuff to creating stuff that like really like you could show to like your grandparents and like maybe they would like it. I mean, seriously.
Exactly.
But so we used money that we had from the studio or whatever to buy MacBook Pro, and we started editing Premiere.
Right.
And then so we had like a group of like 12 people. It was like the 12 second year kids that we were making that last video, like a goodbye kind of South video.
Right.
And like I took the editing and I edited the whole video, like the actual video, and then somebody decided that they wanted to learn how to do After Effects, and so they made like this cool like 3D trend like ending kind of like closing title sequence that was like animated in the sky. So that took like 3 days because it's After Effects. And so that was kind of what our last 2 weeks of like high school was like talking to people who are there now, like they're like going to see the senior assembly and then they're just like leaving. Like they've been at school for like an hour, whereas Caleb and I were there from like 8:30 to 3:30 for 2.5 weeks making this video. So
that's awesome, because whenever I started, we used Final Cut Pro, and then when I got into college, it was all Adobe. So it was Premiere, After Effects, Audition, and I had to learn that whole new software over. So that's awesome that you all. After Effects it's a pain. Yeah.
And I actually switched from Adobe to Final Cut earlier this year.
Okay.
For this. It's just easier.
Final Cut's a lot easier, but you have the Premiere and After Effects. After Effects, I had to work with that too much, and you open the software and it's really confusing looking. You're like, oh my gosh, like what am I supposed to do?
Exactly.
So, and you don't even know where to start.
Right, exactly.
The toughest part too was like we got that MacBook Pro like 8 weeks left in the semester. And so it was like I just happened to like kind of know how to use Premiere because I was using it like for personal stuff too.
Right.
So like Premiere was easy mode for me, but then it was like Carson Withers who ended up like wanting to do the After Effects.
Right.
I mean, like it was like learning how to ride a bike, but instead of it being a bike, it was like After Effects.
Right.
So
exactly.
yeah, he had fun with that, but it ended up being a really cool video, so it worked out really well.
Well, and that just goes to show that you have different people who enjoy doing different things with it. So,
exactly. Exactly. And that was one of the big things. Like one of the biggest reasons I think why Caleb and I were able to like really succeed well in like senior year in the studio was like because like Caleb said, like we had a really really good group of guys that were like really committed to like coming in and working every day and stuff like that. Like it wasn't just Caleb and I that were coming in and like working from 8:30 to 3:30 on that video. Like it was pretty much everybody. And like it's very hard to find that, especially in something that's like a high school class.
Right.
You know, even though it is like we looked at it as bigger than a high school class because to us it was, but like to everybody it doesn't have to be. But it was like I think it's very rare to find like a group like we had in the studio senior year, like ever, especially in a high school environment. Yeah, it's really really tough.
Yeah, it is tough, and so it just goes, like I said, shows the fruits of your labor paying off eventually, and makes your jobs easier when you've got, it's more than just one person dedicated. I mean, it's all a team. It really is, and you know, or it's like a finely tuned engine. When one part goes wrong, usually the whole system goes wrong. Yep. And it's the same way within a team. It's all about pulling your weight, and so when you've got people who are willing to continue to pull their weight and do their part in it, it helps the engine and work properly, and so there's a lot of dedication that goes into it, but like I said, you know, seeing the fruits of your labor kind of pay off in the end is really awesome.
I think that's something that's like really satisfying for Caleb and I too, especially like with this, like with the podcast. That's something that like we really focus on. It's like people will like message us, and like now, like whenever we started like with the actual Instagram and stuff like that, like really doing that, like we've gotten a lot of like people like saying like, yeah, like good job, you know. Yeah. And so like exactly. Like that's really cool, you know, especially like for us just starting out, kind of, you know. Yeah. And so like we're really like we don't take that for granted at all, because like to us like that's what it's all about, you know. It's like making an impact.
Exactly.
Yeah. For sure.
Exactly. Finding ways to make it. I'm just sitting here thinking of like ideas you can do to continue to grow this thing. But
well, Caleb and I do that all the time. Like we'll record 24/7.
Really?
Yeah. This is like really become like our number one priority. Like the whole podcast and stuff, because it's like been like wildly successful in our eyes. Like it's had really good reception across the board. And like every episode that we do, we feel like we get so much better. Like, especially because like we record, and then a different episode comes out. Like we're 2 weeks behind on the show, so like it comes out, you know. Right. And so like the episode that comes out on Friday, like that episode will be like, yeah, that episode's fine, but the next episode's like way better than that. Right. Yeah. Like I catch myself in that situation all the time.
You learn the more you do it, and the more that you sit down and have the conversations, and you know, Caleb's wearing the headphones so he can hear you know, all of us talking, and a lot of it is, a lot of people get into this thing and they're like, oh, I don't like the fact that I can hear my own voice. You know, and then it's like, once you learn to get past being able to hear yourself talk, and usually you improve a lot. But it's cool sitting down like you all do and listen to it, because it's like, oh, I got to make sure I work on this to make myself sound better, and make the show sound better.
That's exactly what it's all about.
Yeah, and so listening to your own self and critiquing your own self helps you improve a lot.
Definitely.
That's something too that like, something that I found that we do, like Caleb and I both, is like so he edits the audio part of the podcast, and then I do the videos, like the clip outs and stuff like that. Right. And so like Caleb's like, obviously the video has been like a little bit late to the party, and so Caleb's been able to iron out his process and recording the audio and stuff like that, and editing the audio. Right. And he kills it. And so like I'm still like working on that with the video. And so, but like I can tell, like editing the first video podcast last week to like now, it's like so much better. It's just like exponential returns, right? You know, because like the next time I'll get better, but it'll be like a little bit less than how much better I got from 1 to 2. Right. So, yeah, that's what it's all about.
It's kind of like taking, you know, 2 steps forward, you know, rather than taking 3 steps back.
Exactly.
You know, you're wanting to improve in every way that you possibly can. So, but yeah, it's awesome seeing how much this has kind of spiked since it started. You know, Caleb posted it on his Instagram story about him, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome, they're starting a podcast. And what do you know, I come in here and you got this whole setup and everything. I'm, man, that's awesome. Y'all are going all in on this thing.
And that was like one of the main points that we really wanted to do, was Caleb and I, like we both looked at like buying the gear and like really committing like day one, like that would make it easier to like not give up. So
I'll I guess turn this around and make an interview for y'all. So what was it? How did you start as far as equipment and gear is concerned? Did you just run like computer audio or?
It was exactly this.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all have had this set up since you first started.
Yeah, since we first started.
Yeah, so that's exactly what he was saying. Our thought process was like whenever we first started is, if we're gonna do this, we might as well do it right. And so we were like, we have the money right now, so like let's go ahead and buy the equipment. Let's buy microphones. Let's go in on a mixer and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I already had a laptop, so like I recorded on my laptop, and so it was just kind of like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it the right way. So
Right.
we've had this equipment since the first episode, and
Right.
I think that's one thing that absolutely has helped us a ton because like what he said, it really helps you not give up because it's like now. Even if like our podcast doesn't do the numbers that like we think it should or like whatever, it's like we have an investment in the podcast already, like money wise and like time wise too. So it's like if we're gonna do it, we might as well go all in.
Well, and as the popularity increases, you'll have a bunch of people who will say, "Hey, that episode was great. I love that episode," and all it does is motivate you all more to continue doing it. And you don't realize that, by having people say, "Oh man, that podcast was awesome," or "Oh man, I can't wait for your next one." It's like, okay, this thing's really starting to go well. We need to continue it. So because it's almost like you let people down, sort of thing, if you don't keep it going.
It's exactly like that. So, and that's the thing too, is it's just like I think us being in the studio like that, like we didn't want to just like talk into the computer and like it echo because like we would have noticed immediately because we didn't come into this as like beginners, and so if we didn't do it right, at least like to whatever right was at the time for us, like we would have been able to point all of the flaws out immediately. And so like by getting like proper mics and like a mixer and like doing it like the right way off the jump, like it just makes it easier for us. And we also like Caleb and I both like we just really like gear, like we really like the equipment and
love the gear.
And like we love like the behind the scenes and like we really do notice like whenever like podcasts like sound good and like they're sound treated and they sound, you know what I'm saying? So it's all about execution. Like Caleb and I think about that all the time, like the production side.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you got a 4-channel mixer right here, so I mean that's a really good start too to have that mixer, and then like I said, y'all got the whole shebang, and you're killing it.
Yeah, and another thing that like we always talk about too is like a lot of people look at people who are doing this that are like famous, like they look at like Logan Paul or Joe Rogan or anything, and they're like, man, I wish I could be like that. But like me and Austin look at that and we're like, we could do that.
We can do that.
And so at that point, it's kind of like, why would you not?
Yeah.
Like at least try. Because like we are in a cool situation where like we didn't go away to college and like we still have like the great friendship and like we have this in common. And so it's like if we have all these things here, and like all we have to do is start. Like why wouldn't we?
Well, and there's there's a big difference in wanting to do something and actually doing something. A lot of times people say, "Oh, I'd love to do what Joe Rogan does. I'd love to do what Logan Paul does," or I don't know why I thought of him, but even Dale Jr. Dale Jr. started this podcast, and then it's like popular, and everybody's like, "I would love to do." But the problem is they don't want to actually take the initiative to start it, and you all have already gotten a jump start quite literally on these other people who do, because you said you have the mentality where, hey, we can do that and we're going to do that. And that speaks measures and volumes on all of this. So it's awesome just to kind of see how you all have kind of gone head first into this, like I've said a couple of times now, but seeing the continued dedication into it and seeing the continued hard work you put in. Hard work pays off eventually, and it's funny. I've got a quote on my phone that's actually my lock screen, and me and my friends up at school that I had met, I was in this Christian organization called Crew, and we had this small group thing that we did every week, and one of the guys in that group had this quote that was on his phone. It says, "If you want something, go get it, period," is what it said, and we all said that as a joke sort of thing, but that was sophomore year of high school, and it's been the background on my phone ever since then, because it's such a true statement. Anything in life, whether it's this, whether it's something in that you're passionate about, if you want it, go get it. Do the work that it takes to get to that point. And, the dedication pays off, the hard work pays off if you just, continue to keep your nose on the grindstone. So
I totally agree with that, because that's something that I think people don't realize about like this, because like it's very easy for the audience to just like look at what we're doing with the podcast and just think that like all we do is come in and like set the mixer down and plug all the stuff up and press record and go, and, like, and that's it. Whereas like it's the opposite of that.
Exactly.
Like the work is the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The work is like the research and the editing and all of that stuff. The work is not like, this is the fun. This is the fun part of the show. You know, for everybody.
There's a lot more work that goes into it than people believe.
Yes.
Or than people think.
Yeah, something that we say all the time is, if you want to be the top 1%, you have to do what the 99% wasn't willing to do.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that we both live by, and I'm sure you live by that too.
Yeah.
You were surrounded by a ton of people
Exactly.
that live by that same mindset, and I think that that is the best way to look at life, because at the end of the day, if you want something, like, go get it, like you said. You just have to be willing to do what the 99% wasn't able to do.
Exactly.
Or wasn't willing to do. So
exactly, and like I said, you can talk the talk as far as what you want to do, but can you walk the walk? You know, I mean, and you can say you want to do all these things. You can say you want to be this one day. You can, in your career, you can say you want to. But if you're not willing to put in the work to get there, it's never going to happen. You know, it's not just going to jump in front of your face and be like, okay, here it is. You want it, you got it. Like, you got to put in the work.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and so eventually it pays off. Like I said,
Yeah,
so
100%.
I think one of the things that like helped us too is like I like to think that me and Austin were in the right place at the right time, like with the studio and stuff.
right.
But it also is like completely not in the right spot at the right time, because it's like you can be at the right spot at the right time, but if you don't do anything about it, then it's like
Right, it goes to
opportunity was
waste.
wasted. So,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like we were at the right place at the right time, but we also had like an open mindset, and we were willing to do like things that other people weren't willing to do, and that's why we got the opportunities that we did in high school, and like even like today with doing this and stuff. So
Right.
I think that helped us a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just all about wanting it and then like executing. Because you can
Right.
also like want it really hard. Like Caleb and I are both like really motivated and really like ambitious about this.
Right.
But like if we weren't willing to like execute, like if we weren't willing to like put the work into like doing it the right way, then it wouldn't matter. It would just all be for nothing at the end of the day. So
especially if you go into like nonchalant
exactly,
sort of thing.
yeah.
So
Because that's the big thing. Like one of the things that like we've talked about a lot, like off the podcast as it's kind of grown, is like our goal, our like number one goal is to like provide value to the audience in some kind of a way. Like I want you to be able to like listen to our show and like get some sort of like spark of inspiration, or like if you're like laying in your bed and you're listening to the show, like you like get up and like do something and like, you know what I'm saying, like get motivated and like really try and like change your life or like pursue like your passions or something like that. Because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just like look at like, especially being like a young adult, like going to college and then just like getting like a degree that gets you like a good job. Like the world's changed from that perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking into microphones right now and that can be our job. That's something that Caleb and I think like it's such a joke, but like it's really like the way that the world is.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be an accountant anymore. Like you can talk into a microphone with your best friend and like that can be your job.
Yeah, like it's crazy now. Like you look around how much the world has changed. I mean, you know, the one thing that I will say is, one, you don't have to go to college to be successful in life. I think so many people think, oh, I have to be successful in life, you know, so I need to go to college. That's complete. You know, my parents my mom went to college for a semester and quit. My dad never went to college, and you know they both been what they say is successful in life with as far as their careers is concerned, and success is measured in different ways, and unfortunately for me, I had to go to college for what I wanted to do, and no, it's not unfortunate, but because I enjoyed college. But you know, you look around, like even today, you have these, you know, obviously TikToks is huge. You have these big TikTok influencers; they get paid to make TikToks, and it's like, who would have thought that? Or you have like these video game streamers that get paid to play video games. It's like, how? You know, it's like smaller things like that.
And what I think is funny about like those two like streamers and like TikTokers, like Caleb and I, who have made like proper like really well done like long form videos, like I look at TikTokers who like make a lot of money off of like TikTok posts, and I just think like I know how easy it is to make that compared to like a proper video. You know what I mean? Like it's so much easier. It's just come up with an idea and like do it. Whereas a video takes like weeks sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, but like literally like something that we talk about, I use this analogy all the time where it's like if you're like really good at rollerblading and like that's what you love to do, like you can make a TikTok account, blow up, and then like start selling rollerblades.
Exactly.
And that's your life though.
Exactly.
And like that's such a joke, but that's like really how the world is now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like it's such a weird thing how like 15 years ago like that would never have been something that would be real, but like I guess by power of the internet
Right.
There it is, yeah.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. You know, the way that social media has become and the way social media influences our lives. Now you can do stuff like that, and then you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's
My whole
like,
life just changed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
in a matter of a day.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's crazy. You know, you can, you know, Joe Rogan. You know, I know he did a lot of like Fear Factor stuff and that sort of thing. But Joe Rogan's like the top podcast in the world now, you know, and it's all he does is sit down and just talk about random stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got one of the top podcasts in the world. And
Yeah.
so you never know, like, how far taking and talking about a microphone can take you as long as you continue to stay dedicated to it. And like I said, you know, unfortunately within this whole, you know, media business, broadcasting business, you have to start small, unfortunately. But, you know, the rewards that you can get by continued dedication, by continuing to put in the work is something that, you know, the three of us could never imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, the rewards are so great as long as the work's put in. You know, you look at a lot of these guys, even within the broadcasting industry, news anchors, sports reporters, sports anchors, they've been doing it 10, 15, 20 years, and there's been a lot of, you know, a lot of tears, I'm sure, a lot of frustration and all of that, but they wouldn't be where they are today if they wouldn't have given up.
Right.
Or if they would have given up. And so it works the same way for everything in life and everybody in life. And yeah, I mean, same thing for you all. I hope that this continues to only grow from here. I think there's been a lot of popularity that has come of this, and I hope that popularity continues, because all it does is motivate you to continue to want to do this, and you know, it's, you'd love to just sit down, record it, and say, okay, let's post it.
Yeah.
But it's way more than that, like you were saying.
Exactly.
So
I think something that really helps too is like, Caleb and I really love the behind the scenes.
Right.
Like,
I love it.
I love editing our videos.
so y'all like behind the scenes more than in front of the microphone.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Really?
Like, my favorite thing to do with this podcast, I'm dead serious, is watch the video podcast, find the TikTok clips, and then subtitle them. It's my favorite thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do.
See, that's what makes it awesome, because I hate doing that.
Yeah.
Like I would rather edit audio than edit video a lot of
Yeah.
times. So
I just like love, I don't know, like video editing is my favorite thing, I think, like in the world, at least so far. I just like really, really enjoy that. And so like that is the like the sucky part of like
Right.
this whole thing, but like I happen to like love it, so it really works out, because
Right.
like I get to like come in and talk to my friend like all the time,
right.
and then I just get to edit it, which is like my favorite thing. So it works out really well. Like
Yeah.
the way that the podcast is like going, like the workflow is really like well for us, because we like love the grind. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about. Because
Yeah.
like we talk about that a lot too. Like if you don't love like the sucky parts of whatever it is that you're like pursuing, like you're just gonna stop doing it.
Right.
Because like we aren't seeing any like direct return from this other than like nice comments and nice DMs, which
Right.
like is good enough for me.
Right.
But like we love the behind the scenes aspect and like the work that goes like into making this podcast like really good. So,
Right.
And that's why like we're gonna be successful with it. So.
Oh, absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and what helps too is this, and I could be completely wrong, but this, especially around, you know, China Grove area, Landis area, even Rowan County, I feel like is not very popular at all, the whole podcasting stuff.
Yeah.
And so that helps you all's case a lot, is because you don't have a lot of these other people you're competing with to get viewership and to get followings and everything. It's like, you know, you all are the only ones basically. And,
Yeah.
and so that helps, I feel like, you all's case tremendously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We talk about that a ton too, because like obviously our goal is to like do well with this podcast and like make it into something that's like way bigger than just Caleb and I. But then our goal is also to like inspire other people to like get with their best friend and just like
Right.
create something.
Right.
We talk about that all the time. Like I want people to like DM us and be like, hey, like how did you guys start your podcast
Right.
out of the gate? Like what did you guys do? Like what kind of equipment did you guys use? Like questions that like Caleb and I know the answers to, because like we've been creating stuff since junior year of high school. So like
Right.
like it makes sense to us. But there are people who are going to be like our age now who have no idea like where to start, because they didn't have that like education or experience.
It will come to you
Yeah, that's the
to
goal.
help with that.
Because like we really do want to give back, and like we both kind of feel indebted to the studio and like South Carolina as like an institution, because like
Right.
it really did give us like this perspective and this like experience that like was very unique.
Right.
And so like I do feel like it's like kind of our job to like give back to that community that like bred us, you know.